Good morning to everybody on this webinar. I'm so excited to be here. My apologies for a little bit of a delay. As much as we practice and as much as we focus, sometimes things don't work out the way they plan to be. But that's okay. Welcome on this webinar. I will be talking about the art of focus and why it is so important that we develop the art of focusing, because it is an art. It is something that we develop. It's the key enemy. If the lack of focus is a key enemy of improvement. And what's very important at the start of is to know that it's not about time management. So now that I've got you on what it's all about, I just want to make sure that you can hear me. That the audio is fine and that you can see the presentation. So it would be lovely to see that you are present. So before I start with the details of the art of focus, just giving you a little bit of my background. My name is Anne Barrett, and I founded Team Dynamics. I'm passionate about individual performance, and specifically with the view of creating exponential teams. So it's about individual improvement to create each improvement is exponential. So when you do it as a team, it creates even higher increase improvement. So I'll start off by saying, by going with the first, is identifying the why. So this is the first time I'm running a webinar just on pictures. So I'm out of my comfort zone. So that's where the learning happens. So I thought of what in our life, what do I see that I look at every day that is representing focus for me? So for me, if we look at the tree, within each season, the tree doesn't try to be in bloom and recovering and feeding itself and preparing for spring. Each season, each timing is the focus is on that moment. It's not going backwards, it's not going forwards. It's focused on what it needs to do at that moment in time, and it doesn't feel like it needs to be anything different than what it is. So for me, there's a great learning in it. So the tree has a purpose. The purpose of a fruit tree is to bring fruit to life. So if that is part of the focus, what do we know why we're needing to focus? What are our priorities? Because they're the compass. They give us the direction going forward about eliminating what is not important and identifying what is important. And there's a lot of material out there. And I'd like to ask you the question is, do you know what is important to you? Do you know what you need to prioritizing? And also, before I start, is where do you perceive yourself as lacking focus? Or where would you like to see more focus? So all of these points will identify as to what you perceive missing and what you perceive that you need to focus on. Usha says that I need to press the presentation button. Oh, there. I'm very sorry, Usha. Thank you. Thank goodness for is it sharing your screen? Usha, can you please help me? Hit the play button. Play button. Okay, I'm all good. Okay, sorry. Talking about focusing. So let me focus on the webinar. So identifying what is most important to you. So there are a few. One of the people that I most look up to when it comes to understanding human behavior and understanding underlying motivation is Dr. DeMartini. And he's got a questionnaire made up of 13 questions around identifying what is most important, what's most important to us. So one of them is, is being able to identify where all our thoughts are, where does all our time being spent on, what do we spend our money on, what do we spend our energy on, and really creating awareness of where our focus goes. This is a primary task, is creating awareness. That's step one. So is creating on where do we spend the money on? What do we always have money for? So for me, for example, when my children, who are now grown up, 32 and 28, when they ask me money, for example, for something in their house, or for my daughter, for example, for a dress, I would say that I don't have the money. But if they came to me and they said, there is this course that's coming up and I haven't got the money, but it's really important to me, because learning is so high in my values, learning is so important to me, I'll suddenly find the money. So identifying what's really important to you is by asking the question, what do you always have money for? At the end of the money, when you're broke, somehow you will always find money for something. And again, the reason why we need to identify what's important to us is so that we can prioritize and being able to focus, as opposed to doing things for sake of doing things. So one of them is, what do we need? What do we spend our money on? The next one is about, what do we always have energy for? So at the end of the day, when you're tired, what are you still able to do? The weekends when you're resting, what do you have energy for? So certain people will have energy, for example, to meet with friends after work, or they'll have the energy to create a painting or something. So for me, what I always have energy for, again, is a book. Even when I'm tired, it's always about a book around human behavior, motivation, flow. Any one of those topics, I'll always have energy for, and I'll lose track of the space and time, which is what we call flow. So flow is a state where we're just able to lose track of space and time, and that's where we're actually able to concentrate and focus on one thing. So what do you have energy for? What are you able to do when you're tired? Do you seek friends? Or do you read, or do you do exercise? But you'll identify what you have energy for. That's a priority for you. That is something that's important, and that needs to be fulfilled. So I'd love to know what some of these questions bring up for you, and for you to see if you're clear on what your priorities are. The other area that we can look at is, where are we the most organized? Where we're the most organized is what's most important. So in my whole house, there are two areas that are organized. One area is my library, all the books around human behavior, and in a certain area, all the books around the nervous systems and the neuroscience is another area. And the other area in my house where everything is organized is in the kitchen, because it is important for me to have family and friends over, and it's an open kitchen, so everybody is involved. So I'm really keen to get from you what you've identified as being important values for you, important activities that identify and will support you in being able to close in on your priorities and be incorruptible in achieving what's most important to you, because that's where your purpose lies. So what is focus really about? So it's the ability to, at any point in time, through our senses, we perceive 7 things at the same time. So the art of focus is learning how to go in this hypnotic zone where you're able to zone in on one. just one thing that is most important at that moment in time. So it's creating awareness that you're zoning in from a variety of things to one activity, one being, whatever that may be. So do you know when you are in focus, and do you know when you're not in focus, and how much of your day are you not in focus? Would that be as a percentage? Would it be 20%, 30%? And also identifying and creating awareness of times during the day that you may have less focus. So certain people it would be in the morning, other people would be at night, and also identifying which activities are you easily distracted. So what are you doing at a specific moment that you allow distractions to happen? And what are you doing in other moments when distractions aren't an issue? So it's this exercise, this art is all about creating awareness of what is working for you. So what I want to stress out as well is that it's not about focusing on one task. So it's being able to zone in at a particularly point and focusing on the one thing at that moment in time, and about being able to eliminate the distractions. So I'll share with you what I call 7 steps, but they're all interlinked. One is not separate from the other, but it's all about creating a habit and building a muscle of what we need to do to develop this art of focus. And the reason for that, always aligning to the reason for that, needs to be the driver, the motivation. And the motivation is to get to what's most important to us. So the art of focus, developing that muscle, can happen at any time. It can happen when you're driving. It's about when you're walking, when you're having conversation with your family or with your colleagues. It's about creating awareness. It's like, imagine yourself that you've got a version of you observing you. Is being able to see and be present to what is happening in that moment. Is what I'm doing a priority? Is what I'm doing distraction? And what is it that's required for me to create focus? So the win is at any time. So it's learning that muscle. So how do we get to that? The first thing that we need to let go of is the art of letting go. So in order to be able to develop the art of focusing, is identifying what needs to let go. And I use this picture of the tree with the falling leaves, because the tree doesn't hang on to leaves. When it's autumn, it's the right thing to let the leaves go if you're a tree that loses its leaves. So there's no resistance. There's no tree that's going to hold on desperately to leaves that actually need to go. So if you're in a working environment or in a family environment or friend environment, and there is an issue that distracts focus, it's about identifying what it is that you need to let go of. So what is it that you need to let go? You can do this in 3 ways. Is by changing it, leaving it, or accepting it. And this is probably the hardest part of developing the art of focus, because inherently when we're struggling to let go is because we need to be right. There is this need to be able to say, I need to hold on to this. This is the right thing. However, is identifying what do I need to let go to move forward, to focus on what my priorities are, and that I'm not in a self-righteous position. So are you able to identify what those ones are? I know this is very difficult to share with people we don't know. That this is not really a safe environment where we can share these things. But I trust that you identify certain things that you need to let go of and make the decision whether you're going to change it, accept it, or leave it. And when you're in that process, always make sure that you put a deadline to it. So, for example, I need to let go of the conversation that I had yesterday with my friend Annika regarding the way I perceive things need to happen in that process. I can do this by lunchtime. So again, there needs to be a completion time so that your mind can work to get to completing that process of letting go. So the second one that we need to be able to identify is what are the distractions. Identifying what is it in our environment that allows distraction. So this picture comes up with what we know the digital distractions, but there are many distractions. Then there could be distractions where, for example, I'm busy with the task that's most important, but my mother phones me and she needs help with unpacking groceries. I'll just give a simple example. So in my mind, that is not a priority. The fact that she phones me and she wants me to do it now could be a distraction if my need is to please my mother, for example. So for me, it would be, okay, what is a task at hand? What is my priority at this point in time? And what would be my benefit to doing what is required for my mother, because there's not going to be any major difference whether I do it in an hour's time, 2 hours time. Giving a very a very simple example, but it's always about identifying what gets us to get distracted. And it's often when we're busy with a task that's not important to us. So continuously having this awareness of what is needed for me to keep the focus and what allows me to lose the focus. Is it that I'm not on the real thing that I should have to focus on? Or is my motivation something other than what I believe my priorities to be or what's most important to us? And neuroscience has come out with, we learn so much about how the brain works. And one of the latest neuroscience research comes up with is that our brain breaks everything down in 3s and 4s. So like a telephone number, it's 072 633 9341. It's broken in 3s and 4s. So understanding that from the millions of things that we need to do, and we all have this massive to-do list, just prioritizing the top 3 or 4 things that we need to focus on the next day takes 20% of the capacity of the brain capacity of the brain, the energy capacity of the brain, sorry. So because there is so much, and because we're living in an environment more than ever where we're bombarded with information, we're bombarded with possibilities, we're bombarded with fear of missing out on certain things that we've never had before, our brain hasn't developed to cope with this amount of information. So what we need to understand is to prioritize everything from the top, the million things that we think of, and identifying what the top 3 or 4, just identifying that takes 20% of the energy. So what's suggested is that we, at the end of the day, complete the day by identifying your top 3 or 4 things in the following day, and then identifying them as your most important task, and then be incorruptible and giving 90 minutes total attention to it. So no distractions. So that is the latest neuroscience. If you want to have more information around this, Stephen Kotler has a great book, The Rise of Superman. And he explains a lot on high performance. So please, you're welcome to ask me any questions during the webinar, and any insights that you may have, any insights or questions that you have for the audience will support somebody in that audience and will support me in making sure that I'm addressing the things that are important to you, because this is what my passion is. So I just want to create awareness again around distractions, is really creating awareness to what causes you to be distracted and what the distraction is and what the benefit is of that distraction. And then having that conscious decision to be able to say, okay, is it aligned to what's most important to us? Am I clear on what my priorities are? Is this what is really needed? So it's all about creating awareness. So Kinsha, you said, will there be another session? Yes, we have enshrined placements through which this webinar is held, is holding a webinar every month on different topics, but this will be recorded, so it will be sent to you. So you don't need to fear that you're going to be missing out. But thank you for that question. So the next step in developing the art of focus is really focusing on one thing. So if you think of the lions, when they are in the hunting stage, they're focusing on, so if there's a herd of zebra or whatever animal, they're not going to try to kill all of them. They've identified prior to the attack as to which animal seems to be the most vulnerable, which one is the most probable likely outcome is that the hunt is successful. So it's not impulsively done. The herd is really looking at what is the lowest hanging fruit. What is the outcome is about getting food, which one is the best possible outcome to get food. So with us as well, as when we know what it is, so in the case of the lion, it's easy, it's about getting food. So it's what is the focus that I need to have to be able to achieve my outcome. So if, for example, you have important tasks ahead of the time, is being able to break down what are the steps required for me to be able to go to what I want to achieve. So a question is, how do you deal with distraction in an ever-changing dynamic environment, especially if it's not your priority? And you nailed it there, Shaban. It's all about identifying your priorities. So I'm very focused on my time. It's if it's not aligned to my highest values, which are learning, connection, and photography, then I don't do it. So for me, when possibilities come up, then I choose, is that going to serve what's most important to me? Is this going to give me more information on how motivation works, how human behavior works? What is possible? What is required for me to achieve that? So it's really narrowing all the possibilities to very few possibilities, but I'm clear on what the outcome is, and I'm clear on what the purpose is of that activity. So often when, and we've got this, and I've been there, done that, so I totally get this. When I was married, I lived in the values of what my ex-husband's values were. So I was doing what his priorities were, and I totally lost myself in those, in living in his values. I didn't get to what was important to me. I only got to do that once the divorce came through. So when you're doing things that are not in your priority, you're living in somebody else's priority, in somebody's values, in somebody else's most important goals. And it's very difficult to find yourself and be authentic in that space. So, and when Clement says it's most difficult when the intentional distraction happens to be someone close to you, that's exactly it. Is like I explained with my ex-husband, is I can't blame him for that. it's my duty, it's my responsibility, it's my accountability to live what's most important. Relationships, intimate and close relationships, are there to support each other in fulfilling what's most important to each individual. They may be two different things altogether, but it's about letting each other achieve what's most important. That is the only time you'll be authentic in a relationship, is when you're able to pursue what's most important to you while empowering and allowing somebody to pursue what's important to them. I hope this helps, Clement. If it doesn't, then let me know. So the third step is about focusing on one thing, and one thing only, and understanding why the focus is on that, understanding the outcome of that focus. So there's a purpose and a reason beyond that. Alberta says yes. So the walking in of visitors and colleagues that do not leave once the business or problems have been dealt with. And Alberta says it's about being able to say, thank you for this meeting, and I'm glad that the problem has been solved. My next priority is, if you need further help or further information, can we set another time? So it's really about, with empathy and respect to others, being clear on our boundaries and being clear on what is a priority at this stage. So each situation will be different, but we can always put our boundaries in place while with respect and empathy. It's a tool that we are not taught at school, but it's about practicing and making sure that we understand each other. So one of the other tools that we can do, another step that we can do to develop the art of focus is meditation. Whether we use yoga or meditation, mindfulness or awareness, it doesn't matter. But it's about taking time out and slowing down our nervous system, our nervous sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So when we're not slowing down, when we're not taking time out, we get into overwhelm. So if you look at how our nervous system develops during the day, is in the morning we start developing cortisol and producing cortisol and adrenaline to give us the energy to achieve what we need to achieve in the day. Then we bombarded with all this information coming on left, right, and center. We're opening our inbox, we're opening our WhatsApp, and we just bombarded with all this information. So what happens is, when we get to a point of overwhelm, it's about then we're not producing cortisol and adrenaline. We're actually producing opiates, which is a form of morphine, because we're in overwhelm. We can't deal with all that information. So the only way we can slow down the automatic nervous system is to take time out. So through yoga or a walk or just breathing. Just the art of breathing, being aware of our breath, making sure we're breathing out, making sure that we're allowing the body to slow down. It doesn't take long. It just takes about 7 seconds. That's why they say take a deep breath, because a deep breath normally takes 3 seconds in and 4 seconds out. So it's really creating this in being able to know when that point comes during the day and achieving that a couple of days. So that's why taking a break for tea or taking a break for lunch, you don't have to do those activities. It's about the break. It's about slowing down. It's about giving the mind a break and allowing things to form and ability to refocus. So Alberta is saying, it normally ends up with me saying, thanks for leaving. Yes, that may be not the most empathetic way of sharing that information. And I'll come to profiles and I can get, I don't know if you've done the contribution compass, but I kind of get what profile you are. So the people that are staying with you, you've got to remember that the reason they're staying with you is they appreciate your company. They're seeing something in you, and their need is to be connected with you. So being able to say, thanks for this connection, this was important for me too. I need to focus going, oh yes, okay, that's exactly what I thought. Thank you, conductor. So that's typically a conductor profile. It's about the task at hand and the human element, it's the interaction with humans. We would like to avoid that at all time. But thanks for leaving may not be the most conducive for future relationships. But I totally get you, Albert. Let's get to the point. I get you. So are you able to identify which parts of the days that you get in overwhelm, which parts of the days that you really, to be able to develop the art of focus, that you need to change going forward so that you're able to expand your times that you're able to focus. So the next one is, now this comes to contribution compass, is it's understanding how you work effectively. Is what does that mean for you? So being effective means different things for different people. So it may mean that you work better in the morning, or whatever is important to you, that you're more effective when you do it in the morning or in the evening, maybe after exercises or before exercises. Maybe you're more effective when you're working with people or without people. It may be that you choose that music, it makes you more effective. Again, it's about identifying how can I be the most productive in the activities that I'm doing, and what leads me to greatest flow. So that is one of them. And so the other one is by using a profiling tool like Contribution Compass, is identifying, that supports you in identifying where you're the most effective and how you add the most value to whatever is most important to you. So I'm not sure if everybody that's on this webinar has done the token. And if you have, let me know what your profiles are. And for the ones that haven't done the Contribution Compass, Enshrine Placement has the ability to, or has the link to be able to complete the profile. It's such an incredible tool for you to understand how you work the most effectively. Where do you add the most value? So where you're getting it is from, if you're going to Enshrine Placement, and so Enshrine Placement is a platform, an incredible platform with so much sharing. And so it's a recruitment place. There's where you're adding all your information, and they will support you in being able to complete the token. So we've got a few different profiles on this webinar. We've got, I'll start off with the Catalyst. So the Catalyst is right on top. It's all about high energy. It's about seeing opportunities. It's about having lots of projects, lots of ideas. It's very fast energy. And then you have Samantha is a custodian, for example, which is a total opposite. So that's sustaining energy. So it's all about implementing the big picture that the activating people see in their mind. So the combination of the two is great in a team environment, in a project environment, where you're able to put to fruit the ideas of the Catalyst. And this is done through inspiring energy, so it's working with people, and through tempering energy, which is all about systems and processes. So all four energies are needed to be able to really bring to fruition an idea, a project, an innovation, And that is where teams come in. That's where I love going in, is making sure that we create those teams. So even from a personal point of view, you can do this with your friends. So for example, if you're a custodian, so high sustaining energy, and you're feeling stuck on, for example, what is important to you is your house, and you're feeling stuck on how do I make it more, or what could it look like differently, is calling on a friend that would have this high activating energy. And often you find in personal relationship, you'll either be duplicates of each other, where you go with what's similar to you, or you go with somebody who's a total opposite. And as much as it's frustrating and irritating the hell out of us, it's about being able to see how we are different effectively, and being able to work in that energy. So this is a great tool. Karen has shared. So the email address is Karen, Caryn. Did you share it on the chat? But anyway, it's Karen, Caryn at enshrine I'm not sure now if it's .com or .co. Please, Karen, can you please share that again? But I'll it's at .com, so you can email it to that email address. I don't know how to show it on here. So it's Karen. There. Thanks, Karen. So for all of you that haven't done the token, you're really encouraged to go and complete that token. It is of so much value, and I'll share another value that is also incredible in being able to focus on the right things for you once you know what your priorities and your highest values are. So as I've shared, I want to keep some time over for questions and answers. So it's all about building these muscles. We don't just switch on a switch in our brain, and now we've developed the art of focus. So it's all about creating new habits. So it's when we want to change behavior, what we need to do is do increments of small, tiny, atomic habits. So small habits that you build on existing routine. So for example, if your routine in the morning is getting up, brushing your teeth, and you want, for example, say you want to be healthier, and you decide to eat water, is just adding that water to that, after brushing your teeth, adding the water. So it's building on new habits. It's not removing old habits, it's building new habits on existing useful habits. And there's a great book on that, and I'll share that at the end. So it's being clear. First, you need to know why you want to focus, what it is that you're going to focus on, and then using these steps going forward to be able to get to what you need to do. So it's, like I just said, it's identifying all the little components that you can change in your habits, in your routines that you're currently doing when there is no resistance. So when you implement small changes, the brain doesn't resist. The function of the brain is keeping us exactly as we are. It's made to look at patterns, and when patterns are in place, its job is to repeat those patterns. Unfortunately, some of those patterns are not conducive to achieving what's most important to us. But there's scientific proof that habits can only be changed one atom at a time, and that's why they call it atomic habits. It's small little changes. There's a great story about how you can research that, how, if you're interested in cycling, and how the British England became so successful in the Tour de France, but it took them 5 years of micro atomic changes that was required. Then the point that I would focus on again is the exercising as well. So it's exercising the body as much as the mind. It's about regular, consistent improvements, habit changes, practicing, but also understanding when there are intense times of using the mind or using the body is as important to rest. It's having that respect to the body. So physically, it's proven that by being physically active. So the willpower to endure pressure of workout strengthens the ability to resist distractions. There's clear studies on that. So the greater the willpower is to work out, the greater the ability is to resist distraction, because we're able to focus on what's important to us. So for me, that was a great study to see that it's linked to the willpower and how the willpower supports the resistance to distractions. So my distractions, I'll use, for example, LinkedIn on identifying what's most important to me, articles around human behavior, motivation, but I get lost in that space. So ultimately I can spend an hour with that without clear focus. So it's not conducive for me to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn because it leads me to distraction and not added value for me personally. So the summary of this, of the steps that we've gone through, as that, but I'll just share it in a different way. So it's important to create awareness of what needs to improve, of what the need is to improve your focusing skills. Everything needs to have a purpose. You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to increase focus. The focus needs to have a purpose. It's a constant decision to invest time and energy, and this leads to improvement. So it's in the beginning, it's hard work, and again, that's why these tiny habits are creating new tiny habits, atomic habits, supports you in being able to achieve that. And then the other thing that will help you in this process is keeping a journal for 2 weeks. So is identifying or write a daily log of what your activities are and what your distractions are and what caused you to not complete what you set out to be. It may be that you're overcommitting, which means that you may need to work around your boundaries, or it may be that you're helping other people when you're seeing the value in helping other people is more important than identifying what your priorities are and be incorruptible, because that's your purpose, that's your reason for being. So practice and train your mind to concentrate with the steps that I've shared with you and implement your skills and make them a routine. So tiny atomic habits, continuously doing them, but always aligned to a purpose and a motivation. That's where resilience comes into place, and there's a lot of information on how important this is to be able to achieve. And lastly is just start. Just start with one tiny habit. And I'd love to know what that new tiny habit is that you're committing to us as part of the audience, for you to be able to achieve what's most important to you. So while you're sharing that with me, I just want to share about these amazing projects that support you in being able to achieve and be focused on what's really important to you, and be incorruptible in achieving that. So this webinar is made possible through Enshrine Placement. Like I said, it's a recruitment company, but it's a disruptive recruitment company. Karen and her team are awesome. There's so much information when you feel you're stuck in your job, or you feel that what the job offers you is not in your highest, or the value that you contribute in your current environment is not aligned to your job profile. So that's Contribution Compass will help you with that. So it's a great platform to be able to identify what's most important. Meraki Evolution is founded by Usha. She is an amazing person with her passion and and her focus is 100% on women leadership and empowerment. I don't think there's anything other in Usha's language than women leadership and empowerment. Everything you see about Usha is about this. So please follow her on Instagram and Facebook, Meraki Evolution. You'll really learn a lot about it. And then for me, Appian Learning and I Ching Cafe, which were founded by Belinda. Belinda is actually a co-founder of the Contribution Compass and is probably one of the most knowledgeable people about I Ching. So all profiles actually are based on the I Ching. So it's going beyond the profiles. And through YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, through the digital media, she gives clarity on what the focus needs to be for the day, for the week, for the month. And that's the reason for the purpose of this webinar, was about supporting everybody around us on being able to focus on what's really important to them and be unapologetically aligned to them. So it's on, so I Ching Cafe is also on Facebook and on Instagram, and she's got an amazing YouTube channel. Subscribe to that channel, please. Subscribe, you'll learn incredibly. And then Appian Learning also has podcast with individuals that have been able to focus on what's most important to them. And this is from all of us, from Belinda, Karen, Usha, and myself, what our passion is to be the catalyst in your change so that you are able to achieve what's most important to you. So I'm really grateful to be able to present this. So Clement says, I found a function on my phone called Digital Balance where it displays the time spent on each and every app or website. I was able to identify problem areas and delete the distractions. I know, isn't it scary? When I saw that, that's when I realized how much time. So my distraction is I'm going to learn, but in the meantime, I'm not learning. So I'm not aligned to what's most important. And I agree with you. That was a great tool for me to support me in saying, this is not working for me. I need to find something different. So, and I found that my distraction time was between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening. So I'm tired. So what I've done is I've substituted that time with a walk with the dogs, because the dogs are important to me. Then I'm walking by the river. Water is extremely important to me. So I'm combining resting my brain with exercising. And then it's aligned to being more ready to what comes up for me so that I can be the best I can be with people. So it's identifying those distraction times. So 5 to 7 is my dangerous time. So Alberta says, trying to develop my people skills, currently trying to learn Portuguese. So Alberta's, what is, so when you're saying trying, so what is holding you back in being able to to develop your people skills or to learn to speak Portuguese? So you need to have a purpose. So trying to develop my people skills, what would be the purpose? There needs to be a bigger why. You need to be able to see by developing people skills, what will it lead to? But also it is important to understand is what you perceive missing in your people skills. It's so broad. So identify within that what you perceive or the feedback that you've received, what is it that you need to focus on? And again, with the Portuguese is once you identify and once you identify how important this is, there must be a reason that you want to learn Portuguese. It might be that you've got a new partner or you're moving to Portugal, but there needs to be a reason big enough for you to focus on. If there's no big enough reason for the activity you're busy with, you're not going to be able to change that. So when you're using the word try, your mind also subconsciously acknowledges that possible failure is there. The probability of not doing this is high when we were using words such as try. And Ellie says, yes, all presentations are being sent to, the recording is being sent to everybody that's registered on the platform, and that will be sent after this call, I think later today or tomorrow, I'm not sure. So Alberto's going back to what he wants to develop with people skill is to better communicate with all the various contractors on site. So start with one, so break it down. And so I can understand if you're probably in project management and you've got all these millions of contractors and they're not doing what you're requesting them to do, is identify the one contractor that you feel comfortable, that is the easiest for you to create a better communication. you've got to understand that better communication requires two parties. So it's being able to go to one specific person and say, the way we're communicating is not working for me. This is what I'm requiring. What is it that you require so that we communicate better, so that whatever the results is that you want to achieve. I hope this helps, Albertus. So the books I've been referring to, so you can keep on asking questions, but I'll just show you the books that I've kind of referred to during my presentation. So the one where you're struggling to change your habits that you feel are not, that needs to go away, this book has really helped me. Atomic Habits, it's James Clear. He's got amazing tips that he sends out, I think once a week, on an email format. So that is, if that's what you want to focus on. The Rise of Superman is about human performance, but written in such a way that it's not, it's fun. It's stories. It's mostly about surfers and high risk sport, and it explains where flow comes in. So if we identify the activities that bring us into flow, and identify what's most important to us, which is the other book, create your highest values from Dr. DeMartini. He's got an online questionnaire called the Value Determination. So you just Google Value Determination DeMartini. It's an online process, and then you can identify what's most important to you. And so if you combine that with how you work effectively and where your highest value is, and you align and create a day of focus and align to what's most important to you, then that's where you are living your purpose. That's where your contribution to the world is. And I wish for all of you to be able to experience that. I'm very lucky to be working with those ladies that I've mentioned earlier, and we're all able to support each other in that process. Yes, I see Clement also read that book. Yeah, it's a lot of information, but that's a book that you keep on going backwards and forwards with different tips. I don't see any other questions. So with this, I'm going to be closing. I'm very grateful to be able to share this with you. I wish you all the best in your journey of developing the muscle of focus so that you achieve what's most important to you. You take care and go and make it happen. Thank you.